Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Pam and I'm your host for this evening. Before I start, I would like to formally acknowledge that the University of Melbourne Parkville campus and where I am tonight is on the land of the Wurundjeri people who've been custodians of this land for over 40,000 years. The university has other campuses and sites around Victoria too, so today we acknowledge and pay our respects to Wurundjeri elders past and present and those traditional owners of our other campuses, and to those whose land it is wherever you are joining us from today. You'll hear these frequently when studying at the University of Melbourne. The development of respectful relationships between the University of Melbourne and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people communities is an important step towards reconciliation. Respect can be manifested either by any of us making an acknowledgement of country, which is what I've just done, or experiencing a ceremonial welcome to country performed by elders and traditional owners of the land we are on. You will have a chance to experience an Aboriginal ceremonial welcome once we are able to resume in person and on campus. On this, I'd like to introduce our two expert panel members tonight. And to that, I would really like to, I'm very happy to welcome Associate Professor Shanton Chan, who's the Associate Dean International at the Melbourne School of Engineering, the University of Melbourne. He's been involved in building internship programs at the university, mentoring students and engaging with industry partners to enable positive graduate outcomes for our students. He continues to keep in touch with industry partners and alumni to understand needs and expectations of employers. He also has spoken publicly at many forums on international student employability. He's also one of the co-founders of the Victorian Working Group on International Student Employability, VicWise. Welcome, Shanton.
Thank you, Pam.
And our second panel expert is Meg. Meg is our manager of the Careers and Employability service at the University of Melbourne. She's passionate about connecting people to opportunities. And currently, her superpowers are focused on managing the Careers and Employability service at the University of Melbourne and as a board member of the Feminist Writers Festival. To lead a team dedicated to improving student experience and innovating careers and employment, Meg draws on skills and experience gathered from leadership roles at the University of Melbourne, Melbourne Writers Festival, Melbourne International Arts Festival, and Malthouse Theatre, as well as various voluntary, not-for-profit governance and development positions. Welcome to you also tonight, Meg.
Thanks, Pam.
Now, also just a reminder to everyone that we also have a team of staff who are on hand to answer your Q&A. So please make sure you send your questions through. And once Shanton and Meg finish their presentation, we'll get and respond to your questions. So without further ado, could I please pass over to you, Shanton?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Pam. And welcome, everybody. I join Pam in welcoming all of you to this session. This is quite a different session to many of the programs you may have heard from various universities, talking specifically about courses to do, what degrees to do, and all that. If you have questions for that, you can still ask them at this session, but I urge you to actually listen to the content that we have provided, because what I'm interested in talking about this at this webinar is really to talk about what happens after you finish a degree. One of the key things that's really important for students to be aware of is that when you start a university degree, you almost have to start thinking about what happens after the degree as well. And ultimately, we're looking at what happens to you as a graduate. So for most graduates, they could either go on to do more studies, or for a large number of you, you'll probably be more interested in employability and employment. Now, I want to begin by, differentiating between the two terms that you would use, we will be using tonight. One is the term employment. That means getting a particular job, right? But then more often at university, we use the term employability, which is about enhancing how attractive you are as an employee to a potential employer. That means we are trying to enhance your employability so that you are more successful in securing employment. So therefore, when we talk about employability, we're talking about how we enhance skills for you and what are the key areas you need to be paying attention to when you are thinking about your first job or your second job and so on and so forth. The title of the presentation today is looking at your careers and jobs for the 21st century and where to from here. Obviously, there's a lot of challenges at the moment, around the world, particularly in the area of employability. And this is because of tightening job markets all over the world, but also challenges in how we work from home and different arrangements and changes to traditional positions and jobs. So before the pandemic, one of the key things to be aware of is that in the 21st century, jobs had changed quite substantially, and therefore employers' expectation of students and graduates have also changed quite a bit. Now, before the pandemic, I used to travel across many parts of the world, explaining to secondary school students and parents about what it is that employers are expecting. And the reason I do this is because I really want to share with you what employers are expecting of you as students. And that's very important for me and for us at the University of Melbourne to try and explain this to our students even before they come to us. The reason is, if you wait till you graduate to start thinking about your employability, it's usually too late. Okay, so one of the key things is what I really like is that many of you here are not even our students yet. There are about 135 of you at the moment, and you are not even our student yet, but you're actually thinking already about your employability. And that is fantastic because it puts you ahead of the game for that time when you eventually have to apply for a job. So tonight's session, I'm going to talk about what is happening around the world in the 21st century, but also during the pandemic, and how that impacts on what you should be thinking about as you're deciding on the course that you're going to be doing. And also, more importantly, the expectations that employers will have of you. Once I've done my presentation, I will pass on to Meg, who will show you what it is that we do at the University of Melbourne to help support students, so that when you do come to the university, you have to make sure that you take on these services. All right, so I'm gonna go on to the next slide. And here is just to give you a sense of what's going on around the world, right? This is what happened in 2020, yeah? Every minute of the day, okay? This is what's happening in the world right now. Honestly, I always tell students, before you think about what you're going to be studying, you need to understand what you're going to be studying, where does it lead you, okay? And one of the key impacts of that is what's happening in the world and how that impacts on the jobs you might be applying for. So one of the key things here is that, since many of us are working from home, many industry partners are now looking at working from home all over the world. The traffic over the internet has really increased, right? This is from Domo, and they produce one of these every year for the last 8 years, showing what happens every minute of the day online. And if you look at this, Zoom hosts more than 208,000 participants in meetings every minute of the day. So we are contributing to that number right now. Before the pandemic, they would have been lucky if they got 1,500, for example, right? So things change very quickly. So obviously, when things are changing like this, it's going to change the industries that you want to go to, whether it's medicine, to engineering, to IT, to the arts and humanities, even through to teaching and education. Even law is impacted. So all areas of industry, all sectors, whether it's the private sector or the public sector, or the government, for example, or the not-for-profit sectors, are all affected by how data and the digital space is impacting on the way we work and changing the nature of work, right? And so how do we try to understand what it is that employers are looking for? Well, when we talk to employers, one of the key things that they say is that it's not always about the degree that you study, but they're looking for whether or not you have the skills, the attitude, and the knowledge, okay? So this is a very different way of thinking about jobs in the 21st century, right? So for example, I'm gonna share with you a slide here about some of the fastest rising jobs in the world, okay? There we go. The fastest rising jobs in the world are jobs that look at, that include things around sustainability, well-being, digital, social media, automation, self-expression, social responsibility, and information literacy. See, there's nothing here that says law. There's nothing here that says engineering or IT or anything, right? It's not even the things that you keep thinking about, oh, I'm going to be a doctor or I'm going to be an engineer, that sort of stuff. In fact, when you look at job advertisements, these are the words that they are looking at. You know, when they're looking for new graduates in the 21st century, they are looking for graduates who understand sustainability, who are agile, who understand well-being, who think about social media, who are green, who respect automation and are creative, but are also socially responsible. It's a very different world. It's a very different world to when I first looked for my first job in the 20th century, and when many of the parents were looking for their first job in the 20th century. So things are changing pretty fast. In fact, it's changing so fast that here are the fastest growing jobs in the world, right? Look at this list of jobs. These are jobs that pay good money as well, right? And these are some of the fastest growing jobs. And the strange things about these fastest growing jobs in the world is that they're so new that they did not exist about 15 years ago. None of these jobs that I've listed here that are the fastest growing jobs in the world actually existed in 2014, 2015, right? And so this tells you that the world is changing. And what's more important, there's a research out of Gartner that tells us two things. The first one is that by 2025, something like a quarter of the jobs that you're aware of will no longer exist because it has changed so much. The industry has changed so much that a quarter of the jobs that we know today might no longer exist in 2025, which is only 5 years away. Of the remainder 75% of jobs, some 40% of them will have changed substantially. So that means that of the 75% remainder jobs, some 40% of them would have changed substantially as well. All right. So this means that, you know, when you're thinking about your next step and about your next course, a lot of people are very much focused on, I'm going to do this course to get here. When employers are saying, hold on a minute, don't be too sure yet. What you need to be thinking about is where you're going and what are the skills you are trying to get out of all of this, right? So therefore, in tonight's conversation, what I want to do is to share with you some of thoughts around what are the types of skills that employers are looking for. I'm sure that would be of interest to you. So the important thing here, the takeaway from my presentation, is to understand where you fit in terms of what are the types of skills you might have that will support your future endeavors, okay? So I'm going to start here by looking at the types of skills that employers are looking for. And I'm going to show you a range of clusters of skills as well. Okay, so here we go, skills of the 21st century. The first one is that no matter where you go, whether you want to become a manager in the corporate, whether you want to be banking, do you want to work for the zoo, or you want to work for the government, or you want to work for World Vision or the United Nations. It doesn't matter what area you want to go to. A fundamental area that we want graduates to have a skill in is to understand security. And in security, we're not just talking about biosecurity, we're talking about sustainability and climate change. We're also talking about digital security. For example, you don't want to be that first rookie doctor that goes into a health system on the first day and shuts down the entire hospital's digital system. So this is really important that every graduate now in the 21st century has to have some understanding of security, right? And this includes the way that you work from home, whether you have a remote secure network, through to your ideas around climate change and sustainability. No matter what the sector, this is an important area that all students need to be aware of. So that's the first thing. Now, I'm going to show you 4 different clusters of skills. The first cluster of skills is this cluster around analyzing and decision-making, and awareness that knowledge is evolving, understanding the limitations and opportunities for methodologies and data. So this is a group of people who are very good at looking at processes and improving process and looking at decision making and how one thing affects the other and how they can be ambiguous and how they're evolving all the time. So these are people who think about the ways to do things, right? What are the processes, right? Think about whether this is something that is of interest to you. This is the first cluster of skill. The second cluster of skill is this red group, which is about the impact of identity and power in the way that human society works. It's focused on critical analysis of perspectives. It's understanding the role and impact of communication, conflict, negotiation, and collaboration. You start to see that the red cluster of skills are very different to the gray cluster of skills, and they fulfill different functions within a company, okay? The yellow one is talking about creating user-focused experience. It's talking about visualizing and creating solutions in a practical and creative ways and challenging the way that we approach existing solutions and balance out efficiency, safety, comfort, pleasure, and effectiveness. So not just efficiency and effectiveness, but also safety, comfort, and pleasure, right? So this is almost creating quite creative and very much user-focused. This is quite a different set of skills to the gray and the red. And finally, the somewhat green one, which is around digital literacy and the complexity of technology-driven solutions, enabling digital human interaction, automation, and creating new solutions through technologies, right? So at this stage, one of the key things for you to think about that I get students to think about is two questions. The first question is, what color, now remembering that everybody has to have security, the blue one. The next question is, then which of the other four colors do you think fits you? Okay, which one of the other four colors fits you perfectly? That's the first question. So I want, there are 157 of you in the room right now. There should be quite a few different answers. So think about whether you're a gray, a red, a yellow, or a green, okay? Just take one moment to think about that. Okay, now, the second question is, which color do you think is the worst? It's totally not you, okay? It's your worst nightmare. Which color is your worst nightmare? Okay, so your favorite and the worst one for you. Most people have a favorite and one that is worse, and the other two they don't mind, okay? So I want you to keep that in mind, okay? I want you to keep that in mind. All right, so now I'm going to tell you, once you've sorted out your colors, now I'm going to tell you what the colors actually mean, okay? What the colors actually mean. Okay, here we go. You can all see the slides? Okay, if you were gray, okay, the gray skills are the skills that degrees in sciences and medicine, commerce, business, and economics will tend to give you, even data science, for example. These are the process-driven disciplines where the skills that you derive are pretty much decision-making and analysis and process-driven. The red skills are the arts and law, humanities, social sciences, right? The yellow skills are the design, engineering, technical creatives, that sort of area. And the greens are the IT, digital automation areas, right? So now the question for you to ask is this. If you picked gray earlier on, and then you think, oh, I really want to go and do a science degree, then you're in the right space, right? If you say gray was the worst nightmare, it's the color that I hated the most, and then you say, but I want to do commerce, I can tell you you're going to be in for a painful time. Okay, so this is where it's really important to think about these clusters of skills before you jump in. All right. Now, why am I sharing this with you? It's this. I'm going to ask people to think about this for a moment, right? If you wanted to work for Google, which of these degrees should you be studying? What do you think? Right? If you wanted to work for Google, which color do you need to be? Is it gray, yellow, green, or red? Okay? Have an answer in your mind. Okay, second question is, if you wanted to work for the amazing British Museum, okay? The British Museum is quite amazing and very well renowned in the world. Which color should you be? Which color should you be studying? Is it gray, yellow, green, or red? Okay. Now, in the 20th century, okay, during the time when I was an undergraduate student, the answer to those two questions, the first one, the museum, is people would tell you, you have to study red, okay? You have to go into social sciences, humanities, and museum curation in order to go to work for a museum. Now, remembering that when I was a young person, there was no Google yet. But imagine if there was, I would have been told the only way you're going to work for Google is if you are green and study IT, okay? Now, can I just tell you that that is a 20th century answer to those two questions? If you want a 21st century answer, it's completely different. The answer to the 21st century answer to the question of if you want to work for Google or the museum, which color should you be? The answer is any of those colors. All colors are relevant. I'll tell you why. If you wanted to work for Google, yes, it's true that a large number of the Google people are green, but it's the yellows that make Google more feasible and usable, okay? And also creative. It's also the grays that keep them profitable, okay? That they can continue to monetize and have good processes in actually supporting and governance of their organization. It's also the reds of Google that keep them out of trouble with various governments around the world, right? And the marketing is there as well. So you start to see that Google doesn't just recruit from green. So it's not a question of which degree do I need to study to go and work for this company anymore. That has changed so much. In the same way, the question around the British Museum, people think it's red, but it's not, because the British Museum still has to make money. That's why they have to have clear processes. And if you look at a British Museum, it's a museum that includes science in there as well. So it's both red and gray. But if you've ever been to the British Museum, you will start to see that it's all designed in a pleasing manner that people keep coming back. And it's enabled by digital as well. So again, all four colors are relevant, right? So this is where we start to think that in the 21st century, it's not about if I want to be a lawyer, if I want to be a lawyer, yes, I have to study law, but I have to think about, is it conservation law? Is it commerce and law? What is it? You have to bring things together. It's multidisciplinary. And as a result, what we do say to students is that, yes, you pick your favorite color and you do a degree in that color, but it's really important that you have one or two other colors as well to support your individual story, because each of you is different, right? But what I do say to students is avoid the color that you originally said, oh, I don't want anything to do with that color, because you probably will not enjoy it, right? And what's important at university is to do well, is to enjoy the subjects that you are doing. I want to shift gear now and still keep on this color thing, right? And one of the key things is during the pandemic, what has become obvious is that no matter if you're a science, medicine, design, digital, or arts and law student, you need to have some key digital skills that are very important, particularly as we work from a distance now. So here I'm going to show you what are the digital skills that are important for the students who are doing gray, red, or yellow, okay? So if you look at gray, the commerce students, the business students, and the medicine and science students, you still, to enhance your skill, you need these digital skills around data science, data analytics. You need to understand processes and methodologies that involve the use of technologies, all right? And you need to understand the limitations of methodologies that involve data. So this becomes very important if you're going to be in business. You can't just do business degree without any IT or not understanding any data-driven decision-making, right? When you go look at the red, arts, humanities, and law, you really need to understand the impact of technology on identity and power. You need to improve critical analysis, use and ethical perspectives in the online space, because so much of our conversation is now online. In the engineering area, you know, the creation of technology is now all built around design around technology. And so you have to make sure that you have user experience design, all that sort of stuff. And of course, in green, it's about all the IT skills that you will develop. So no matter where you go, no matter if you're red, yellow, gray, or green, there are different types of digital literacy and technical skills you are going to need if you're going to do well post the pandemic world. And this is why we see this as so important for our students to develop as they go along and when they join us, right? And so at the University of Melbourne, there's something that we do called breadth subjects. So for example, if you're a commerce student, for example, we still require you to do a few subjects that are not from commerce. So you have to pick from one of the other colors. This is so that you enhance your skills beyond just the commerce degree, for example. It's the same for me with my IT students. What I've done is I've sent them to the performing arts so that they actually get exposure to communication and the performing arts to enhance their IT degree as well. And this is what makes students more employable, and that's really important. I'm completely aware I'm running out of time. So one of the things that I want to show you as well very quickly is that even when you look at the traditional professions around accounting, law, medicine, and engineering, they are all changing all the time. Even in accounting, I was telling some of the students that, you know, IT skills are in high demand now with Deloitte, PwC, EY, KPMG, and Accenture. So that some 25 to 30% of their graduates that they hire are actually from STEM, not just accounting, right? Conversely, when you look at engineering and architecture, it's not just having technical skills. It's actually more important to have creative skills that enable you to work with other disciplines as well. And so when you are thinking about a degree, the wrong question to ask is which one has more jobs? Because what's important is you become good at what you are doing that will then help you get the job in the area that you're going to be best at. Okay, don't try to be something you are not, is what we're saying here, right? Here's an example. Andy, who is one of my former students, who is highly technical, but also very creative. So bringing that together, he became one of the founders of Crossy Road. And that's the whole idea of you being able to have your voice and have your passion in there, right? The final thing I want to say about the outcomes is what we are doing here is not, it's not difficult, but we want students to come along for the journey to make sure that they are fit for the 21st century job market. This is the reason why in the QS ranking around the world, we are ranked number 7 in the world for graduate employability. But one of the key things that's really important when we talk about graduate employability is that graduate employability means that a lot of our students are highly employable. We have a great reputation amongst employers, but that doesn't mean that you are all going to be employed if you don't do it. Okay, so Meg is going to tell you what are the things we do to help students become more employable. However, if you're one of those students who don't come to engage with us, who don't come to listen to companies coming to talk to students, then you have wasted your time by just studying and not thinking about employability. And this is why at this stage, we really want to encourage you to really think about all the services that Meg is going to talk about, which makes us number 7 in the world. One of the things that I always say to students is, you know, you can have a passport, but if you never travel, it's a waste of the passport. Another thing that I always say is if you go to a buffet, you've already paid a lot of money to be part of the buffet. If you only have rice at the buffet, it's your own fault when there's lobster and everything. But you just have rice and you say, thank you, I'm full. That's your problem, right? So even if the buffet was rated in the best in the world and you only have rice, then the problem is with you, right? You've wasted your money. So this is why what I'm going to do now is to pass on to Meg to take you through what are some of the things that we have that will help students become more employable. Thank you. Meg, over to you. I'll stop sharing mine.
Thanks so much, Shanton, and thanks everyone for all of your time this evening. I'm delighted to be able to share with you a little bit about our service at the University of Melbourne to provide an insight on what is available to our students. So the Careers and Employability Service, so my team is incredibly passionate about and focused on individual experience. So you've heard from Shanton how important that is across their degree journey and beyond. In the global pandemic, we know labour markets are in flux, and with that disruption, our role is more important and includes providing students with support and guidance to navigate that changing landscape really well. So while you're at the University of Melbourne, it's a great time to build your networks and gather experiences to enrich and hone your competitive edge, really. So I'll just walk you through a little bit about our service. So just to kick off here, you're not expected to be able to see the text, by the way. Please enjoy the beauty of the rainbow as I explain what this is all about. When we are physically on campus, we have a dedicated space in our Careers and Employability studio on campus, where students are invited to drop by and get guidance and insight from trained student leaders or book an appointment with a professional staff advisor for career conversations. In the studio, we have a large print version of this beautiful chart. And this chart is a visual depiction of students surveyed about their current work 3 months after graduation and then again 3 years later. The flow provides a sense of the diverse pathways graduates move through in their early careers. And I share this, further to what Shanton's been sharing as well, to provide an insight on that diversity of students and experience we welcome and work with at the university. The chart is really useful conversation starter for students who visit our studio. At all stages, we see all types of students and situations and stories, those who know what they want to do, those that are still exploring, some who have ideas but haven't considered what they might do to reach their goals, some are ready to apply or getting ready for work post-completion, internships, volunteering, everything in between. And so it's an exciting sort of visual there, I think, to think about that diversity, which is a way of saying that at the university, our Careers and Employability Service assists all students to build, transfer and translate their university learning, skills and experiences into work-related opportunities, because career development is a skill in itself. We don't come to university knowing how to navigate those steps and to understand what the pathway might be to make the most of the academic learning. So further to Shanton's messages earlier of many, and I love the passion with which Shanton approaches it and the direction. We love getting students from Shanton she's directed them our way. Our experience and the research in the field shows if students engage early and with purpose in their career and employability development, if they create a plan and accumulate experiences with intention, that's a critical part, which Shanton also touched on, and connect to the service and support offered by the University of Melbourne, they'll be the best prepared to enter and meet the market of their choosing with confidence and success as they graduate. And I think that choice part, really reinforcing that the engagement and the choice, so we're here to give you the information and help you feel confident and prepared. So choosing to undertake tertiary study and choosing the University of Melbourne is a powerful and really important career decision. When we meet students at orientation, we say the same thing. So when they arrive, we really encourage our students to continue that career thinking and informed decision making and action throughout their degree. Don't stop now is what I actually say to them when we meet you at your orientation. Here's an example of here's our service. So sorry, I've moved on. This is the view of our service as a whole. These are all of the things that we provide at a high level. I'm going to move you on now to a bit more detail and give you a bit of an example. So here's an example. If we take those different areas, our service is curated, it is directed, it is designed to be easy to navigate, and we are highly connected to faculties and other services across the university for seamless student experience. We want to make it easy for you to do this because we know that, as Shanton's pointed out, lots of students leave it to the last minute, leave it late, in order for you to make sure that you engage with us early, that it's something approachable for you. We might like to make it as easy as possible. So we do that by intention and design, and we do that in lots of different ways. So here, an example, our advising service there on the right-hand side of the screen, the coaching experts, tailored advice, stage-based and scaffolded. We have peer leader advising and learning, as well as our professional advisors, and our staff provide advice and students can talk to us about career planning, building those employability skills and experience, researching sectors, organisations and the job market, which is a really critical component of working out where you want to go and what you want to do, that personalised job search, application document advice, which is a really important part of it, something that everyone thinks is sort of the hallmark of a career service, but is a really sort of almost a latter part of the service delivery. So much work and benefit is in the exploration and the discovery as you sort of hone your career development, and building professional profile, which is even more important in this virtual world that we're in at the moment, and particularly in a global workplace or in a global work environment. But really anything related to their careers employability, we're welcome and open to discuss with students. We have a whole range of industry engagement and employers on campus, or on and off in the virtual world in campus, for our students across all disciplines. As Shanta mentioned, we bring them to the students, and we really welcome them connecting to employers. And we usually focus our employers and engagement on live employment opportunities. We definitely know that students are seeking that. They want to understand and be able to apply and connect with employers in that way. They network with representatives from organisations with current recruitment, including graduate roles, internships and volunteering. And that's across fairs, that's across the whole year, you know, whether that be sort of masterclasses, insight panels, or the traditional sort of fairs that we might offer. Another great example, I think, of how we connect students to the multitude of opportunities that they have ahead of them throughout their degree and beyond is through our mentoring, our career mentoring programs. There's a whole range of them across the university, delivered in faculty as well, and disciplinary areas, as well as through student clubs and associations. Centrally through the Careers and Employability service, I'd like to highlight one in particular that we have that's called Ask Alumni, and that is essentially connecting our student community, all of it, with all of our alumni community. So you can think about the size and scope of that. And it connects students with recent and established graduate professionals from around the world, which is a real benefit, I think, for those when we have an international, really important and diverse international student community, who can talk to alumni who've taken a career path of interest, find out about the realities of working in a specific role or industry. You get to learn about the transition from university to professional employment and develop networking skills and experience, which are really, really valuable in your career exploration. So that's a service we offer. We have thousands of alumni and students in those programs currently, and that's a point of distinction that we have at the University of Melbourne. That's a unique program that we've pioneered just in the last 3 years. I'm now going to draw your attention to a couple of our service offers quickly. So one of them is we have in our learning management system, so in the LMS, which students have become very familiar with when they start at university, is our career modules, which they're exclusive, they're designed with our students and with strong practical outcomes in mind, but they are underpinned with a pedagogy, so the learning design is there. They're fit to purpose and aligned to career development frameworks, so they are short, sharp and interactive and designed to enable student progression, just as our student partners told us that they wanted. So we have a strong user experience focus in our work, because it's important. We're meeting students on the ground every day. We have to be responsive, and that, I hope, will be your experience too. Now I'm going to show you I wanted to highlight one of our tools. It's called the Smart Career Platform. This is something that is a product that we have bought and put in place this year, but we have it tailored to the university community and is benchmarked to us. And it is an AI-driven feedback tool that really supports students to get their documents ready to take to employers, which we've talked about is often a focal point for our students and a really important part of that transition to application. So students upload, for example, their resume for instant feedback and targeted advice. And the career platform also includes assessing the fit to a specific career or industry. Students can get feedback on their LinkedIn profile and their elevator pitch as well. And I'm going to just show you a couple of screens here that we've had of our student peer leaders put their resume through the platform, just to give you an idea of the the comprehensive nature of the feedback. We provide staff, the staff are able to provide the feedback as well, but students are able to access this at any time that suits them, which is often what we find is of need to students. So a lot of our tools are available 24/7 for them to access support and resources when and where they need it, which we know is a really important part. So I'm going to walk you through here one of our leading edge tools, the Smart Career platform, just to give you an idea of what it looks like when the students go in and upload their resume. So this is just a demonstration model from one of our students. You can see there the score is 52. Competencies, impact, these things have been benchmarked to the community so that students are able to really see their progression and how they can amend their documents. This is a really focused and very detailed level of feedback that allows our students to really feel confident and know that they have got documents that are going to really help them exceed in the market. There was also the pitch. This is an example of what's shown in the pitch feedback when students give their video pitch. It's very, very detailed, and you can see when you've said and to that degree. So, you know, these are the sorts of things that we provide, and where we see students jumping off from that is to coming in and talk to our advisors to talk about your career plan, not just the tools, but really what your personal approach is. Our service is really holistic and designed to meet our students where they are. As Shanton's pointed out, career stories are incredibly unique. Our students might study the same courses, the same subjects as their peers, but they are all individual. They will have their own, you'll have your own preferences, your strengths, your own passions, and that means that your career journey and development is also unique. So our service is designed for you to navigate it yourself with us and with our support and in and outside of your degree. So you can jump and take what you learn back into your academic learning and then back into your career development, hopefully seamlessly. So we can't wait to meet you. I'm going to move now to the questions for the group. I think I'm taking myself off sharing, and we'll bring it back to Pam. So thank you all.
Thanks, Meg. That was fantastic. And we do have questions coming thick and fast. So if I could also invite Shanton back, please, to respond to our questions. And Shanton, to your question for your quadrant, I'm definitely a grey, and I feel like I've done the right degree and I'm in the right field. So let's get started. The first one, obviously coming from the floor, and this is obviously a very timely question at the moment, is how do I get a head start? How do I stand out from the field?
I think one of the things here is that a lot of students think that if I do a degree, then that's it. That's actually not the case. Like Meg was saying, every student is a bit different, right? So all of you are different, and it's about how you show you are individuals. I can tell you that my students who get a head start are the students, you know, for example, in my faculty and in my school, we bring in alumni and panelists from industry partners across the big end of town to come and talk to students almost every fortnight. And in the same way, the university has a lot of, some 250 employers coming onto the campus to talk to students during the semester. You want to know how to stand out? Make sure you come to those events and network and talk to those people. You know, it's as simple as being there and talking to them. You know, I have some 400 to 500 students across all of IT, for example. But when I run those events, I might get 80 to 100 students. So, you know, if you're one of the 80 to 100 and you're asking questions and you're finding out about what they're expecting of you, the more you can meet the expectation of the employers, the more likely you are going to be networked, linked into them, and that's how you stand out. But if you don't show up to all of these things, even if you get a grade point average of 90, but nobody ever met you during the time, then you're not going to stand out. The 90 grade point average is not what makes you stand out. The networking is what makes you stand out.
Can I add to that, Pam? I think that's a great yes and to what Shanton said. I think there's something around mindset of you know, your approach and doing things with intention. So not only turning up, but being thoughtful about what you want to achieve from it. So, you know, what questions do you want to ask those people that you're meeting in those network conversations, and why would you be there? You know, that's really important. That sort of all lines up to your plan, that if you have a plan, you're going to be able to feel that movement and achieve those goals, and sort of be sense checking across the periods. It's the engagement plus, which is to sort of really, no one likes reflection, but it is really important, even if you're only micro reflecting on your experiences and those interactions, to really learn from it. What did you learn from that fantastic alumnus that came in and shared their pathway, and how can you take that into your own journey? When you take that into the classroom, what did you learn from that experience, and how can you take it into your part-time job? I think it's that very much the thinking and the engagement with it, rather than just seeing it as an external, something will happen to me. It's really engaging and being involved in it.
That's a good one. And look, I think a really good follow-up question to that is, obviously, you know, the future is a bit of an unknown, especially for some of our younger students who are about to start the undergraduate degree. So they're trying to work out what are the skills of the future. So Shantan, skills of the future of the 21st century. So how would you motivate them, and what will your advice be to recommend that if they feel like they may not quite have those skill sets yet?
Look, no one feels like they have all the skill sets, right? That's why we study. And you know, even at my age, I continue to study and continue to improve. I think one of the strengths at the University of Melbourne is that we encourage you to do that, and we provide you with the skills to continue to grow and develop. Because if you want to remain competitive, I mean, that's what you have to do across all the sectors and across all the disciplines. Nobody stops learning. That's the first thing, right? But if you're a young student, you know, 17 to 18 to 19 or even younger, and you're not quite sure, I can tell you though that the 4 colors that I shared with you, the red, the gray, the yellow, and the green, you probably have an idea of which one appeals to you more, right? By the time you're in year 8 and year 9, you're pretty good at knowing whether you're good at or bad at maths. You're pretty sure you're good at literature, or that's the worst thing for you. You have a sense of where your strengths lie. And this is where you need to celebrate your strengths, okay? One of the key things that we always encourage students is, don't just listen to people and say, oh, you should do accounting. So even if if you do not like maths, why are you doing accounting? Oh, because my friend said it's good. That's not how you choose your degree. How you choose your degree is, if you really like accounting, and if you really like mathematics, and you like to think about how people keep credit and debit, then yes, do accounting. But if you can't even stand maths and you don't like anything to do with that, then why are you doing accounting? So the key thing is to celebrate the color that you're good at and challenge yourself in one other color. So, you know, by that, I mean, when I gave you those colors, you know, if you were a gray, you have so many options there, all the sciences, all the business, all the commerce and economics, right? If you were interested in red, there's the whole range. We have something like 35 to 40 majors within the arts degree. Okay, you can't tell me there's nothing there that you like. That's the reality. If you are the best red you can be, Google will want you, the banks will want you. You don't have to study commerce to work in a bank, believe it or not. Okay, so this is the whole idea that in the 21st century, a lot of companies are looking for interdisciplinary teams. And it's not a question of, oh, if I'm not good at maths, I cannot do business. There are lots of arts and humanities people who are running businesses very successfully in the world as well. So it's just thinking about what your strengths are and celebrating that, and keeping the passion. And students who lose the spirit and become discouraged are usually the ones who are doing colors that they do not like, doing subjects that they cannot have no interest in, but are forced to do it because they think it is the thing that is good to do.
I'll concur on that. I mean, we hear from employers all the time, and they, particularly in the graduate space, they don't expect you to arrive fully formed. No employer expects that, but they do want to know about what makes you great and what makes you a great fit. And to do that, you have to have that sense of self and that self-awareness and that reflection and that understanding of what you've achieved that Shanton's talking about. But you also need to be able to articulate it. So I think there's what we offer through service, but also through those opportunities, and is that opportunity to practice and think about, you know, what those experiences have given you, and to talk about it with others, and to network and chat to an alumnus about, you know, your role in the club or society or your volunteering, to talk about it and articulate what you've learnt, because that's actually the biggest, you know, you can also come out of your degree and have done 100 different things outside of your studies as well and be fully formed. But if you can't tell anyone about it and you can't tell your story, then you're also at a disadvantage. So that's also part of what you can find at the universities, not only all of the experiences and the great academic path, but also the opportunity to hone that storytelling skill, those sort of storytelling skills, to articulate and to sort of match that to where you're heading.
That's fantastic, Meg and Shanton. And I know that we often get a lot of questions around, you know, what's a really good course for me as well. So whilst we understand there's so many skill set we need to acquire, there's also a lot of really fantastic programs out there. So Shanton and Meg, you both talked about passion and what you're really good at. So maybe some further advice around students who are still really stuck around, how do I go about choosing a course for me?
How you go about choosing the course for you is you have to be clear that this is an area that is going to give you the skills that you can enhance, and skills. Okay, let's put it this way, right? One of the things that I always say to parents and to students is this, that in the 21st century, when you look at security, it's very different to the 20th century. In the 20th century, people talk about job security as you get into a job and the company will look after you for the rest of your life. And, you know, you just work in that company and your job is secure. In the 21st century, there's no such thing, right? But you have to change the mindset. And this is the thing that I share with students over and over again. In the 21st century, if they take away your job, yes, they can take away your job, but there's one thing they cannot take away from you: your excellent skills, your skills that you are good at, all right? So for example, if you're a great communicator and you study to be a journalist, right? And you can't find any journalist jobs, but you know you are an amazing communicator, I can guarantee you that most of the other companies, whether it's a bank, the zoo, or the government, will want somebody with your skills because you're an excellent communicator. If nothing else, apply to Google, they're looking for excellent communicators, right? So that you are using those skills rather than thinking about, oh, it's the job title that I'm after. But in the 21st century, you know, when 25% of the jobs that we know today will not exist in 5 years, why are you so stuck to that job? Most young people are ready to move jobs, you know, 7 to 10 times in their lives. So what's important in the 21st century is find the skills that you are interested in and what you're passionate about. Okay, I can't say it any other way rather than just say, oh, I'm going to study IT because I think there's a job in Google or IBM. But if you're not good at maths and logic and programming, why are you studying IT? That's what I tell students. You have a better chance if you were a great communicator to work for IBM than you would as an IT programmer to work for IBM if you're a lousy programmer. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the balance that's important to think about.
That's great. Meg?
Yeah, I think I can only concur. The hot words of the century are agility and flexibility, and they apply to career planning as well. And, you know, that's an employability skill. Your ability, you know, employability is that ability to navigate your employment across your life. They are life skills that you're taking with you. So I think it's not boxing yourself in and really being open to that. That applies to how, you know, the degree will only go so far. And I think that sort of you need to be ready to take what you've learned and take what you know, wherever you need it to be and wherever you need it to go. And sometimes that's just about your thinking and your mindset, not the limitation of any of the other components.
That's great. And speaking of navigating life, Meg, obviously you showed us a wide range, or the buffet that Shanton's referred to earlier, of the range of services that we offer to students. And often there is that perception, there was a question for the audience today also, is that, you know, there seems to be that perceived that the Careers and Employment unit only supports the local students and not international students. And I think the question back to our expert panels again, so what would you recommend once a student joins the University of Melbourne? What would you recommend to start, you know, to do to help improve their employability?
I'm going to say something very quickly, and I'm going to pass on to Meg. One of the things that I say to students when they come to the university is, when you are studying at the University of Melbourne, each semester you're expected to do 4 academic subjects, right? But there's 2 other invisible subjects you need to pay attention to. The 5th one is actually your employability. You have to treat it as a subject. So from day 1, after you've had your free barbecue in our beautiful lawn, you know, of the student clubs, you have to start thinking about your employability. That's the 5th subject. And the 6th subject is your well-being. You have to be well, because your life balance is really important, because if you're not well, you cannot do the other 5 things. So don't just focus on your academic 4 subjects. And I'm telling you this as an associate professor. I'm very serious about your performance as an academic. But at the same time, I'm interested in your employability and your well-being as well. But the 5th subject is where Meg can help you. Over to Meg.
Thanks. Yeah, so I think if I were to narrow it down to one, because I think there's such a plethora of opportunity for students as they enter into the university for social connection, which is really important too, but also because it forms that first network for you. So definitely do the networking that happens with the social interactions, the orientation, the onboarding that happens, because I think that, you know, when we look around us, we look at our peers, those of us who are in the workforce now, we see that network that perhaps started at university. So, you know, that's a great place to start with your introduction, and to see that as being related to where you know, that's a network you will continue to draw on across your life, your professional life, as well as your personal one. I think as a direction to our service, we'll be putting in place, we've got a framework and we've got a bit of a quiz that we put out there for students to help them orient themselves, to understand where they're up to in their journey. And we find it's applicable for every level. Doesn't matter whether you're undergraduate or PhD, that thinking is actually so personal that students often haven't thought about it in the same way. So to help them orient themselves, we have a quiz and a census that helps students decide which stage they're in. So you could be a discover student, a focus student, or a student who's ready to apply, or you may be sorted, you may have got everything lined up. Invariably, that framework doesn't necessarily align itself to, you know, the first, second, third year. You know, students will do it individually, as we talked about. Everyone does it at a different stage. You might move very quickly through the exploratory stages of what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, where am I going, what am I liking about my study, and what do I want to explore. You might move very quickly through that. I've settled on something. I want to do accounting, but I want to do tax accounting, or a very particular type of area, or I really want to work in astrophysics. You know, there's a whole range of things that you might focus and hone, and how you go about that, and how you begin to test out that thinking, and then to where you get to a point where you want to apply. And that, so you've already done the research of the market, you've got a bit of a network, you've heard from others, you've formed an opinion that then leads you through to that important part where I need to apply. And that's where the sort of practical things that people always think of for a career service come into play. But of course, it's important for us to provide all of those pieces. And in actual fact, the first stage of self-discovery and really that you know, direction setting is actually more important than the rest of it, because it sets you up, as Shanton's saying, for how you engage with everything else in the interim. And so take the quiz. It's really quick. It's a 2-second quiz, and it'll just give you some direction to resources as a starting point of, if I'm a Discover student, there'll be something for me here, and this is how I can use it. So it gives you that orientation and navigation. So I absolutely direct you to the careers pages, where it says where you'll find us, and then you can start there.
I want to add to that as well, that as you can see, there are lots of things from day one that students can be doing. There are 2 misconceptions that I want to address, particularly for international students who are joining us here. If you're an international student and if you hear somebody say that, oh, careers and employment services, they're only relevant for the local students, you are hearing from people who are not trying to help you, okay? I think one of the key things that's really important is all the services that we're talking about are relevant to all our students across all markets. So if you're a Chinese student thinking of working back in China, we have services for that. If you're a student from Southeast Asia looking to stay on in Australia or going back to Indonesia or wherever, these services are there because we have alumni or internationally, right? We are drawing on all those resources to help students. The ones who don't use it are the ones who say it's not relevant because they haven't actually tried it out and they haven't actually looked at it, or they think this is too much work. It's not given to me. Why isn't it just the company giving me a job? The world doesn't work like that. You have to do the work, right? So that's the first misconception that I want to clear, that these services are relevant to all our students. The second one is we have a lot of international students who wait till they're in their final year to think about this, or they think once I get my degree, then I'll worry about this. You know how not to stand out? All your friends who have been standing out because they've been engaging. For example, in Australia, if you are applying for a graduate position, you actually have to apply the year before you graduate. And most students get their job offer before they graduate. Once they graduate, they walk straight into a job rather than finish then apply. Because if you wait till you finish, then you apply, you are too late because the companies are already recruiting for the next year. So you've got a whole year where you haven't got a job potentially. So these are things that are misconceptions that if students don't pay attention because we tell them, come on, we are giving you these services, come and have the buffet, don't just have the rise of going to classroom.
And with a little bit of engagement, we'll give you the prompts too. So come on board, get the newsletters. Absolutely, we've got a whole lot of local global focus, but we have, look, more than 50% of our service, we're seeing international students. That's bigger than representing the sort of actual student population. I perhaps didn't draw attention to it because it's embedded for us. It's not a separate necessarily. We do have targeted activity that tailors specifically for international markets, absolutely. But it's such an embedded part of our service that I probably should have drawn attention to it more. It's so ingrained, it's every day for our team. So do come see us. We're participating, for example, in Australia India Week coming up with some employment panels. We have a huge focus on China program, but again, we meet each student as they need. So we'll be able to talk to our students about their particular opportunities wherever that is in the world. Thanks, Shanton, for the prompt there about early engagement as well. I think it's really
definitely start from day one. And look, I really want to thank the panel experts, and if you guys could stay a little bit longer for us, because obviously we've got some very engaged audiences tonight, and I'm really grateful for the advice. So if I could probably go to the next question, and obviously it's all around the whole COVID, how COVID's really changed the way the market is now behaving. And as we move towards COVID normal, what would your advice be for students, as they're looking for their part-time job? What's the situation like, their internships and all of that?
Yeah.
Yep, you go first, Meg.
Yeah, I'll go there. So I'll step in. We're seeing, what we're hearing from employers is that particularly with the bigger end of town with graduate programs, that there's not so much a massive drop that perhaps everyone was anticipating. There's just a shift. So we might see from some graduate employers that roles are now they might have different rotations. They might put graduates into different portfolios. The work is shifting, not necessarily the number of roles across the board. So I think that's that's a really good signal to our students to see where that flexibility of career planning and that forward thinking allows them to, again, meet the market where it is and where they want to be. So the market is changing. Markets around the world are very different. We had a presenter from China, from Shanghai, representing Hayes recruitment, and he was saying the market in China is massive and it's really diverse and different, and so you can't use sort of make platitudes about a particular, sort of make generalizations, about a market. You really need to understand it and look for it and look for the opportunities where they are. There's growth even in the pandemic, where we weren't expecting it, e-retailing, or we were talking about IT jobs in the in the pandemic have shifted and changed. Cybersecurity has been a growth market that wasn't big, 5 years ago, potentially as much as it is now, and where there are new jobs in the future. So it's really about maintaining that agility and keeping that open mind about what will be coming up, rather than what everything is right in this moment now, and preparing for that. So sort of continuing to build and accumulate experiences and move with intention in perhaps smaller moves that will prepare you well for when you're actually ready to get into the market. And it will still be in flux, but I think that will probably, we've seen that fluctuation for different reasons over, different periods of time. The university's degree sort of package, the Melbourne model really well prepares our students to meet that with agility. Chanted, your turn.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, most of our programs have got industry advisory groups that actually tell us about the shift and the changes. So, you might hear from some other people that Melbourne University is all theoretical. That's not entirely true, because, if we're all theoretical, we would be ranked 7 in the world in terms of employability, right? So the reason why, academics like myself, we spend a lot of time with industry partners to see what exactly they're looking for, and be able to shift and change as well, so that your degree is always dealing with some of the fundamentals that will be unchanging, but also some of the agile trends and all that makes sure that you are not just pigeonholed into one area, but that opens up opportunities for you. So giving you the strong theoretical foundation, but also the practical skills to move and learn continually. And this is with advice from industry partners. And so one of the key things there is following our model, encouraging you to follow your passion, and coming along to those events as well. And that's how you frame your own story. And that's very important. I think the thing that Meg keeps saying to you, and I agree, you have to find your story. Don't let somebody else's story define who you are and what you are, right?
I think the pandemic has shown us, this disruption has shown us that you can't prepare for everything.
No,
you can only prepare yourself to be responsive and to be prepared to navigate what you find. And I think that's the tenet of what we're saying, isn't it?
A number of our students are currently doing virtual internships, for example. So we're not going to stop internships. Internships are important. Engagement with industry is important. So we are doing virtual internships. We're even looking at the virtual internships with our international partners in Malaysia, for example. Whole range of things, right? We have a lot of students who are currently encouraged to do virtual volunteering even, and virtual networking. It doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop.
Thanks very much, guys. And I know that it's quite late, but I think we do have a really good question to round off the evening tonight. And it goes back to, my course and my study. So this is one that I'm just going to read out directly. So I like maths and I'm rather good at it, but my passion is in making music and composing. Should I go for my academic strength or my passion? Now, again, thinking back, jobs, employers, why would I study music at the University of Melbourne when our maths is really good?
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to confuse you a bit more just to show you why there are so many options at Melbourne Uni. The two that springs to mind immediately is this. The first thing you could be doing is you could actually still do a maths major as the part of the Bachelor of Science, while concurrently doing a diploma in music, right? To get your music going as well at the same time, because we have this breadth subject that says if you're a science student, you must still do about 5 to 6 subjects from a different area. Do it from music, right? You'll be surprised how many math students actually are good at music, or you may not be surprised. So doing the concurrent diploma in music, for example, is amazing, right? That's one way of doing it. The other thing is you could go the other route of doing music, but also take on the more technical aspects in the Bachelor of Design. There's all things around performance design, which is bringing together design and technology, for example. And you can put maths in there, you can put music in there as well. So really, it's about what skill are you more passionate about developing at the university that you can't develop on your own. That's the important thing. What networks can you be a part of? So to me, I think if you did a science degree and did a concurrent diploma in music, you have the chance of actually networking across 2 sectors that are of you're passionate about, and let the opportunities come and jump on the opportunity that you enjoy 2 or 3 years down the track. Don't close off, keep it open. And that's the beauty of the Melbourne model, because it enables you to do something like that. So I haven't actually asked you to pigeonhole to choose one. I'm saying actually keep them both going if you're really interested, because you can, and see where the opportunities are coming from.
Thanks. Anything else from you, Meg?
No, I couldn't have put it better myself.
There is a question in the chat about part-time job environment in Melbourne. A lot of our students do part-time job, but I always tell my students that if you're doing part-time job, make sure you are able to do what Meg said earlier, reflect on that part-time job and what skills you are learning as a result of that part-time job. Don't just say, I earn money from the part-time job. How do you actually improve the workplace? You know, did you help them design a website? Did you help them with their marketing? Did you help them with their communication? What did you do that supported your skill development as part of your part-time job? So even people who are working at a McDonald's, for example, they have amazing customer service skills, and being able to talk about those skills is really important if you want to work for a bank eventually, for example, right? Whether or not employers are flexible using with university schedule, it depends on the employers, but most employers are usually quite flexible if they know that you've got study commitments as well.
If you can't tell an employer what makes you good for them, then they're not going to hire you. So I think that's absolutely right. Anything that you take, you need to be able to think about how you can present it. And I think certainly in the Australian market, and it varies across the world, we know in terms of what's valuable to employers, it doesn't matter where the employers are, they need to be able to understand and have you translate for them the experiences that you've undertaken and the skills you've developed. But I think particularly in Australia, if our students are looking to work in Australia, that the market is at the moment it's like it is everywhere in flux, but there are definitely opportunities, and they are, again, they're focused. They may not be exactly where our students might have the skills and experience. They may have to add some skills in order to pick them up or try something new, but it's starting to pick up now. I mean, we've just seen in this last week where the restrictions have changed, that the market has started to emerge, and it's looking forward. And we were talking about, for example, the Australian Open and what might be happening at some of the bigger events that are coming to Melbourne, and how, you know, in actual fact, in this new world order, the different types of roles that might come about for casual work or summer jobs to make a difference. And how our students might talk about them as well, in terms of, you know, suddenly we've got more staff who are providing direction or security or, you know, care, or different roles in those sort of summer jobs that students might undertake that, you know, and we think what we've heard from employers too is that they want to hear about what students' experiences are through COVID. So it would be remiss of our students and a missed opportunity to not reflect and be able to share what they've learnt or how they've been resilient through the COVID times. So, you know, that works for jobs. You know, you know, how they've addressed their part-time work needs, or it is something that becomes a story in of itself to tell an employer a future.
Look, thank you so much, Shanton and Meg. Certainly, I think, you know, definitely encourage students to start early and engage. I mean, the reason why they joined the University of Melbourne is to be able to access all these fantastic services, either from Meg's area or, you know, with the academics that you'll be in your, you know, surrounded in your course. So thank you very much, Shanton. Thank you, Meg. And I'd like to thank all the audiences that have joined us tonight. And a copy of the recording will be sent to everybody, so you get a chance to review this and go through in a bit more details. And please contact us again, contact our team, contact Stop One, if you have any more follow-up questions that you have from this evening. But thank you very much, Shanton and Meg.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good day. Thank you.